Hello and welcome to the Surfing Podcast, brought to you by Audible and Amazon Prime. My name is Dan Bilek. I'm your host. You can listen to all episodes of this show on our website at thesurfingpodcast.com. We're also on iTunes under The Surfing Podcast. And if you have any questions for the show, or if you know someone you think should be a guest, or you'd like to be a guest in the show, hit us up via email at our email address. It's info@thesurfingpodcast.com. This show is recorded and edited in Huntington Beach, California, where I live. And this week, the U.S. Open is in town, which is the big WQS 10,000 surf contest. And the waves, as usual for this contest, are super small. And it's also been really windy and bumpy, even early in the mornings and pretty much all day. But the water's really warm. It's like 70, so it's not all terrible. However, I've been surfing anywhere but the Huntington Pier the last week since the contest rolled into town to avoid the crowds, the weirdos, and people who surf just as bad as I do, but who only do it in the summer and during the contest and make it super crowded and annoying. And that brings us to this week's guest. I was thinking about who we could have on this week or for this show since the contest was coming into town. And I thought, what better guest to have on the show than someone who's actually surfed in this contest before? And I think made the quarters way back when, like 1997, I believe. This week's guest is Jeff Deffenbaugh. He's a surfer from Huntington Beach, California. He's a former pro surfer, and he's still rips, and he's a surf ambassador. He was the first guy from Huntington Beach to ever make the WCT World Tour back when it was the ASP before it became the World Surf League. He was the runner-up twice on the U.S. Pro Tour, which used to have the PSAA back in the day. He's also had numerous WQS contest wins. He's been on the cover of Surfing Magazine. He's been the team manager for clothing companies and brand ambassadors. He's been a surfing coach. He's been a chapter ambassador for the Surfrider Foundation. And he currently works for Global Surf Industries, the companies that distribute the Hayden Shape surfboards, among other brands of surfboards, as the California territory manager. And he's just a great guy. He's a great dad. He's a great surfer. And he's in his 40s, and he still surfs as fast and as vertical as a teenager. I swear to God, I see him out, and it just makes me so depressed to be almost just like maybe a year younger than him. And God, the guy rips just as hard as he did when he was, winning the NSSAs and the captain of the Huntington Beach High School surf team, which he was. But also the nicest guy, the humblest guy. Just glad to have him as a guest on the show. So without further ado, here is this week's guest. This is my interview with professional surfer and surf ambassador Jeff Deffenbaugh. All right, we're here with today's guest, Mr. Jeff Deffenbaugh. Thank you for being on the show.
Right on. Thanks, Dan.
So we were just talking before we started recording, and the reason I want to have you on is because I really do, when I was going through the list of like people I wanted to have on and who was like close enough to like be able to like within an hour's drive is kind of my rule right now of who I can have on the show, like people with interesting stories in surfing, whether they were pro surfers or not pro surfers or whatever. And you honestly came to mind like every time I thought of somebody, basically, because you made the pro tour right out of high school, and you also had a son, and you also you've lived like as crazy and a complicated of a life for somebody who like didn't have a crazy drug or alcohol experience. You know what I mean? Like you're always kind of like a straight-laced guy, I always thought. And not like a nerd, but you know what I mean? And he did a ton of shit. So it's always amazing me. And you still surf and rip today. And you look pretty much the same as you in high school. You're one of the only guys we grew up with that isn't like fat and or bald. And probably, I don't know, Rogaine and
or both.
Yeah, or aerobics, whatever you do. But so that's why you're on the show today. So just take us through like where were you born and how did you start surfing?
Well, I was born all the way in Kansas City, Missouri, so it's kind of far from the ocean. But no, moved out here. I think I was 3.5 years old. My older brother Barry, we were a year and a half apart. Mom moved out here. Moved to Huntington Beach, but we didn't start actually surfing until about, I think I was 9 years old. We'd been boogie boarding and playing around the water, and our stepdad at that time, he'd surfed and I've been in the beach millions of times with him, but we finally started gravitating around, actually grabbing his boards and wanting to surf when we were probably about 8 or 9 years old. So that was pretty cool. When we lived here in Huntington, started surfing around the pier, and then plenty of friends, plenty of guys we started getting out there with. So, I mean, there's a lot to tell in a short amount of time. But
yeah, when did you like go from like just grabbing your stepdad's board to actually having your first surfboard or having, like...
It was probably about a year. We had to... that summer was just playing around, but then the following summer was when I was 10. My first board was a Carl Hayward single fin.
Awesome.
It was pretty rad. And then eventually moved into a Sam Hawk twin fin after that. So it just elevated. So if you're thinking the timing. I mean, this is
You're right on the
this
cusp.
is the early
Yeah.
80s, or early 80s, 83, 84, yeah, somewhere right there.
So there were still twin fins floating around and some single fins
Yeah,
still
I mean,
floating
we're
around.
grabbing-
Because now, like, kids are like, what's that?
Yeah, they're thinking that's such a retro classic board, but
Or you took two of the futures out of a tri-fin or something like that.
exactly. Yep.
So you started doing that, and then would you go to the beach every day since you live closer? When did you start like surfing like consistently enough, more than just like on the weekends or when your parents took you?
It was. I mean, we weren't surfing every day, and we didn't live that close. We were still further away. We were probably about 6 miles away at that point. So to ride our bikes was a little bit of ways. But then we got lucky. I think I was about 12 years old when we moved closer. We were only about 3.5 miles away,
Which is still a pretty
so that
big
we could
bike
still
ride.
far, but we were charging it. My brother and I, we would start one way, and then we'd pick up Cabbage and Scotty along the way, and whoever else, Russo over there, and Sid. I mean, it just,
And this is back before the bike racks were like the surf racks and bikes were good, like the side saddle ones.
they were just.
This is either
oh, dude, they were so gnarly.
you wrap foam and then duct tape around one of your handlebars
Yep.
on a beach cruiser, or even a 10-speed.
Yeah.
Or you could get those surf racks that stuck out the back of your bike.
Yeah,
where you
they're
get
up
tail
the
dings
back
every
and-
time you come
yeah.
off the curb.
If you're, you couldn't go off the curve, dude. You'd smash the whole board.
Dude, I Google search for those to see if they even sold. They don't even like make. They don't
yeah,
even
and
sell
they'd
those
be all
anymore.
loose, just jiggling around back there. The wind catches you, and you're going down. But no, that was it, man.
And you
that
just
was
ride your
where
bike in your wetsuit to and from the beach. And
yeah,
then,
you'd suit up at home, dude, and you'd charge it all the way down there. And I mean, it didn't matter what the conditions were, but that was the thing. Like, we wouldn't. I mean, back then there's no internet. You don't know. You can't check the surf.
you don't check the.
The
You called the
closest
surf
you-
report that was updated like at 6 a.m. and like sometimes in the afternoon.
Oh, it was rare.
And you get water temp and like general size. But back then they wouldn't even give like accurate.
We knew which way the wind was blowing, and that's about it. So that was either you're doing it or you're not.
And then your brother is a very good surfer. Did Barry, your older brother, did he surf like more? Like, did you copy him, like trying to get as good as him, or who did you guys both kind of like pick up pretty quick? Like, hey, we're good at this. We should do this more, and like,
I think it was just the. I mean, we started getting good. I mean, around that time, I think acknowledging like. Knowing we're good enough when guys start saying, hey, man, there's WSA's contest coming up. You should enter and stuff like that. When you're 11 years old, 12 years old, and guys start bringing that up. But, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't copying my brother. We were just
because you and your brother get along
have
well.
fun.
You guys aren't like the super competitive brothers that ever like hated each other or anything like, that crazy stuff that you hear sometimes.
No, but we were together all the time. We were surfed a lot, and we had a lot of the, same friends as well. So it was like we were always in the same circle constantly. It seemed like,
yeah,
But I think it was just one of those things. It's like, that was what it was. I mean, we weren't on the baseball team or the football team or whatever else it was, but that was what most of us did, was surf. So.
Did either of you ever want to like play other sports or even try them, or you just once you found surfing, you're over it, kind of?
Soccer was, when you're young, 8, 9. We were still playing soccer, 10 years old, 11 years old, but and we played other sports. But yeah, it just seemed like I think because you could surf year round, and when and we weren't like bouncing in
and
and
there's
out
no
of
practice.
and there's no practice. Like, you had to show up. Exactly.
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing too.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us do. I mean, back then it was like. When you're that young, you're either riding your BMX bike, if it's crappy, your skateboard. I mean, we skateboarded all the time, and we had a skateboard ramp at the house, all kinds of stuff,
And that was the kind of thing we talked about before the show too. It's like, so the program back then, that was it. It's either go play in a dirt lot, building a dangerous bike ramp, and then try to BMX style jump it, or you could go down the pier and surf, and that was it. But there was no other program back then where kids were like homeschooling and stuff and training to be like world champions or whatever. It was like, hey, go down the beach and surf, and if you get good, do the contest on the weekend, and that's about it. There was none of that stuff yet, right?
Well, the closest thing was the junior high and high schools we had surf class, remember?
Yeah.
And then we had the surf teams. So there was organized stuff, but wasn't
through the school though.
That was through the school. There's no back then the homeschool was basically for the dropouts or the people that had
we
social
had a school
problems.
called that school over kind of in like Wintersburg or whatever. Like
Exactly.
if you were a bad kid, you had to go there, and
you
you
were
could
bad or you had a social dysfunction, and that's where you went.
Or drugs. Yeah, it's all like all the Hessians and stuff would go there, like the smokers, the kids that were smoking like freshman year. But so you guys, so you stayed in school. It's like, when did you do you remember like your first contest you ever won, or like when you did well? Were you like, what's your earliest memory of like doing well like competitively?
It's hard. I think it was one of the district WSAs. It was a local one, and there was only a couple of kids in the contest, but winning that, I think it was actually, they used to do them on north side of the pier. But that was it. And then it just kind of turned into doing multiple events, because they'd have different. Back then it was weird. The WSA and NSSA was I don't know, dude. It seemed like there were more contests. It seemed like almost every weekend. I mean, they still have a lot, but the bottom line was, there was just all the events. You do all the events, and you for the season, and dude, I don't know. If you're good, you're good. If you're not, you're not. That's
another thing, because we have some friends. We all have kids now who are all older, but we have some friends like friend Jay Larson has a daughter who's very good at swimming. She's like 10 or 11. And every weekend on his phone and his Instagram, if he's not working or occasionally surfing, he's like at a new pool. He's like in Irvine. He's all the way in Temecula. He's up in Bakersfield for swim meets. How did you get to contests? Did your mom have to take every contest, or would you team up with their parents or bum rides, or how did that work out? Because it seems like once you started doing contests, they were there to do every weekend if you wanted to.
Yeah, they definitely were. Yeah, well, we got lucky. My mom was really supportive. She really enjoyed, taking my brother and I to the contest, and a lot of our friends, and just, dude, we had a big giant van, dude. We'd load it up, and we would go to the comps. I mean, we didn't do all the contests, but we did a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about like past the year, those first few years. I've been talking about in the junior high school years, really, is where we started really getting into it. So, yeah, I remember those years almost more than I remember the high school years for some reason, but
yeah,
through that 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, it seemed like that's where you started to really get your I don't know, your athletic groove of what you're capable of or what you're not. And that's what I said, and as well as other people recognizing you and sponsorships, and not that there was a lot, but that's where it kind of started right there. Either you start getting discounts or some free wax, and next thing you know, you got the surf shops, but it was pretty cool.
Because that's like nowadays, it's like there's kids that like drop out of school basically to homeschool, like at a very young age, are getting checks from companies and releasing clips and stuff like that. But what were your first like 2 or 3 sponsors? They weren't like free stuff. They were probably like discounts or, free wax at a surf and sport or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think my very first sort of sponsor was Victory Wetsuits, and they gave me like, I don't know, like 25% off of whatever it was. And I got to go to the factory and pick the colors of my wetsuit, you know, and pick out where I wanted the label, the Victory on the wetsuit. And I was like, this is the most awesome thing.
Yeah, the kid that's like, they're amazing.
But 3, 4, 5 months later, which seems like eternity, you got if you win a couple contests or do well, and other guys start saying, hey, I can do that. I can match that. You get a Lita or whoever. But then there was that surf shop called The Surf, the Japanese guy, Keto, who ran that. And it was in Huntington. Yeah. They had a lot of good guys. Actually, Tom Kern rode for them. Kern
had a sticker on his board, that one ad. It was such a big deal. Yeah. Yep.
Tom rode for them for a long time. But those are what I remember, Tim Pony surfboards,
Before he moved over to Maui or whatever,
Hawaii, yep. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it all started, in that era.
And what were the boards like when you were in even junior high competitively? Did you have your boards like dialed in back then? Because it seems like now kids are on things, they like use different fins and and have boards like different custom air sprays. Like how many boards did you have when you were like in 7th or 8th grade doing contests every weekend?
Yeah, so now is very different than where it was.
You didn't have a quiver,
then.
I'm assuming.
There was a quiver of you had 2 short boards, which basically, you were lucky if one wasn't old and delaminating. And then you had 1 step-up board. And then after that, it was like you're pretty much borrowing anything if the waves got really big, But, yeah, it was basically 3 boards. And nowadays, I mean, if you want to look at what the kids do, or I should say what the kids are ordering. I mean, dude, they'll order 4 boards, 5 boards at a time. I'm hearing, and I've seen. I mean, even from some of my coaching times, kids would show up. They go, "Yeah, I got a couple new boards," and they'd be pulling out 5 or 6 boards at one time. And then they got to figure out which board works and which fins to put in and which one they like. And it's just everything's like gotten to the point where it's almost complex, but you got to kind of narrow it down. It's pretty gnarly. But even with talking about these kids, the homeschool part, like you're speaking of, like that really didn't exist for us. And I think now it's different. I'm sure the school districts are different. Like you have to show up to school a certain amount of days or they don't do it. But the reality is it's like, I mean, I know some of these kids are literally, they're 12 years old, 13 years old, and they have no idea what it's like to walk into a classroom. It's pretty nuts. Like they're already on the path, and or at least they think they are. And that some of them have the talent, and some of them probably will make it, but there's a lot of them that probably won't. It's just one of those things.
And we'll like lead in like the other stuff. We'll talk about your career. Like that's the weird thing though too. Some of these kids might have all the talent in the world, but like they're like a growth spurt away, or like maybe they rip at 15, but that's as hard as they're going to rip, or maybe they won't surf big waves well, or whatever, or maybe they'll get a girlfriend, or maybe they want to smoke pot or whatever, and then like that way too much. There's so many things. I feel like the 90s, like there was so much talent, like we were talking about before the show. Huntington and San Clemente had so many guys like 15 to 17 that ripped. You're like, oh my god, this guy's gonna be famous. This guy's gonna be on the tour. So many of them. I'm talking about like 21 you never heard of again. You know.
Well, that's the thing. I think
here the kids seem more like the parents a little bit more yuppified, and kind of like they're more nerdier and straight laced, which is actually good as far as their future is concerned. Or
it's all changed. I mean, the world we live in's changed so much, and then you think about Dan. You remember when we lived, or you lived on the other side of town, but. I mean, dude, how many empty lots used to be in Huntington Beach?
Yeah.
A lot. There were empty lots. There was dirt fields. There was,
go steal wood from a construction site and then build like a crappy half pipe and jump off it until it broke or whatever.
And now today,
it's
how many empty lots
Yeah.
can we count? No, I count maybe one or two in the whole entire city, man. It's a lot.
And it was so rowdy back then too, though. The kids just seemed
everything was rowdy. Things were more like a small. It was almost like a beach town feel, and it was just different, and more people knew each other. But at the same time, it was really competitive in a way.
Dude. I was just thinking about, like I was saying, like you're one of the people that come to mind. Like some John Lyman, a photographer, a local guy from Huntington. He posts photos. He takes pictures of the pier almost every morning, which blows my mind. I mean, he takes pictures every day and takes the time to put them on his website and post them. And he sells some, and some of the pictures are pretty good or whatever. But like, that's a lot of work and a lot of effort every day. It's like, and he's been doing that for 30 years back when there was film, and he had, he's just pictures in Surfer and Surfing Mag and all that stuff. But he posted a picture of a guy doing this really good turn on the left, this goofy foot guy, just like really laying into it, like a glassy, like morning wave, right? You could tell right before it blew out that day. And it was Jason Russo. A guy who back in your day, back in high school, junior high and high school, rode for Rusty, was at our school.
Yeah, he rode for Rusty for a while.
He was one of the first guys I ever saw in person do a reverse. Front side and backside. He was doing those in heats, and I remember he was doing like seasons before Kelly Slater in Black and White came out. Like he ripped, that was like the 12 guys in the surf team every year were like guys that good, like guys at Surf World's you and your brother or Russo or whoever. And it was just like such a small opportunity because back then I just felt like it was such a roving band of kids. Because you mentioned riding, you ride your bike. When you ride your bike to the beach, you go home, drop your surfboard off, then you drop on your bike, and everyone would kind of travel in a pack and go from house to house or go wherever they went or go out and get in trouble, go to lots, do whatever else they were going to do as they got older,
Yeah, well, back then it was like if your parents were working and whatever, so that was always it. Like, hey, you guys got to go together in a group, but...
Remember the bike racks on top of the north side of the pier? Remember, like filled with bikes. Now, like there's still kids in the water, but they get dropped off and picked up.
Yeah, now it's different. They're not riding their bikes
Everything's
around. Like, I feel like it's just different. Even myself, like I'm a little bit more worried. Like, I felt like 15 years ago or more, it was like even. We were a long time, 20 years ago, but it was so much more safer almost in a way, but.
I don't know. I feel like maybe the time's different, but I feel like it's the kids. I honestly feel like even the kids surfing are a little bit nerdier and a little more like less. Dude, the mouths that all of us had on us, all the kids had, like they were like F-bombs this and just calling each other the most awful names and just spitting and doing all this gross stuff. The kids in the lineup nowadays, when I surf like Huntington or even go surf lowers, they're real polite and then there's like splashing each other. It's real like PG rated. They're not calling anyone an MFer and like trying to beat someone to death. Because back in the day, it was like Grom harassment was bad, but like Grom on Grom harassment was pretty pretty brutal too. So that's the one saving grace of the kids seem a little less.
I just think it's just being brought up in a different time, different world, everything's just so much.
A lot less supervision back then. And that's how I always trip out too, because like, dude, the group of guys that you grew up with, the group of guys that went to our high school and on a surf team, like there was no supervision basically from adults.
That's what I mean. That's why I said that. It seemed like more of the parents, or both the parents, were working.
Yeah.
The majority of them, at least, it seemed like, and then a lot of us, at that age, that's why I was like, we were all together.
Yeah.
There's more. There's not these ones and twos. It was 4 or 5, 6 guys that are, Like, hey, dude, are we surfing? Yeah, we're surfing. You know, everyone, as soon as that bell rung at school, you knew we had already spoken about it. We already knew where we were going to meet, who, and where we were going to surf. And 9 out of 10 times it was going to be south side or north side of the pier.
And there was no Instagram interface or like Snapchatting or whatever, like, and then checking the cams, see they're good. You just went. Whether it was windy, you went. If it was windy, big, small, you just went and you rode one board. And that was it.
It was like you get home and you're suiting up, you grab a snack, and the home phone would ring, and like it would be like you said, it would be a Jason Russo or a Cabbage or a Scotty or somebody calling, saying, hey, dude, are you on your way? What's up? Hurry up, let's go.
Yeah, you always the one in front of the lags, and like you get left behind, all pissed, like whatever.
But anyway, that was good time.
So so that was, it really was. It was like a golden era that's never around. But like, how did you do so well in your career-wise when other guys, like not just from here, but in general, like you were the first guy from Huntington, I think, to make the CT, like legitimately. Some of the other guys did some of those contests back in the day before it was even the ASP or whatever. But you made the tour. And you had a lot of success and a lot of this, and you kept your head kind of screwed on straight to like do that and make it that far. What do you think it is about you that's the reason why?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with watching those guys that were in front of me that we spoke about too, that were unsuccessful. And I always was like, well, why are they not? I mean, these, like you said, Colby Outlaw, and there was Kirk Tice. I mean, there's a whole list of guys
that ripped,
that were all trying to make it, or could have made it, or should have made it, but for some reason a lot of it was financial. I think a lot of them even spoke about it. It was just hard to get around.
Yeah.
It was super duper competitive, and
sponsorships weren't like today. They weren't like a check,
No, I mean, the amount was
gear.
just barely to get by. I mean, these guys are living in tiny apartments and still living at home. But I honestly think that it was just try to like look at it. I don't know if the right word is dissect it, but I was kind of trying to figure out what these guys weren't doing right, or why they were, so inconsistent. And then they would one year they're there, 1 year they're not. And then I just tried to look at that, and I just tried to stay competitive and really find an edge and a way in. Because honestly, I don't really feel, and back then, I don't think, having to compete against Kelly Slater and, Taylor Knox and Pat O'Connell, Rob Machado, and the list goes on and on about I wasn't the best surfer out of everybody, but I was one of the most competitive guys, and I tried to figure a way to win or beat these guys somehow,
So you said, even at like young age, in high school, you'd sit down and you would really think about the things.
Well, yeah. I mean, through the high school years were the years that was, remember CC?
Yeah.
CC was
Craig
the most
Betchloff.
natural, talented surfer probably on the whole entire West Coast.
Goofy foot guy, had a style just like Aki, kind of like looked like
16
Aki.
years old,
ripped.
Bob Hurley was running Billabong, and he had CC, on the path to be one of the best guys in the world. And unfortunately, CC himself just
kind of imploded. And video didn't exist back then either.
Well, it did. That's where it started.
Every 3 years, 2 years, the video of like Pump or something would come out, like a VHS video. But I mean, like clips, so you couldn't put out an Instagram clip.
Right.
Like Nick Rosa had a big problem, like where like he got into drugs and was partying too much and kind of dropped. Lots of sponsors fell off the radar. Then he put out a really good clip. Like Kelly Slater tweeted saying this guy is the best unsponsored guy, and like he's had a resurgence. He went from like no sponsors to sponsored to now he's like ultimate trick guy to ultimate video guy, and now he's like becoming like big wave guy this year. Like
back then
that would have never happened. He would have just been like, dude, see you later.
No, you only had two choices. You were either a really good competitor or you were really good in what you're talking about, sponsored free surfer that you could withstand going on all those trips and wait that whole year and a half, but your sponsors at least got you through those times,
but also not implode doing that either though.
And that too. I mean, there was a lot of times, it was just partying. I mean, not for me, but I remember watching the guys ahead of us. I mean, it seemed like that's a lot of it was guys were just having a good time. But even back to for me, like I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to win. I wanted to make money doing this. I didn't want to have to get a real job, even though I had a few part-time jobs through those high school years. But it was that. And then watching as Slater had come on, like the money did start to come, and the contracts did start to get a little bit bigger and bigger. And it did get easier for us, I think, through the first part of the 90s. I think it really started to hit, in the whole surf world, actually. So I think that's where I was like, you know what, I could actually make a living doing this. Maybe not a great living, but I could make a living if I could pull it off. So I was focused on that pretty heavy.
So through high school, 89 to 92 when you graduated, or 88 to 92 when you graduated, you graduated, you were surf team captain your senior year, and I'm assuming you won the nationals that year, most likely, or got second, or
I think I did win.
Did well. So when was your CT thing? How was the How was the QS back then compared to now, and how did you get enough points or figure out that if you could buckle down, you could do it? And what support did you get from sponsors? How did you qualify?
Yeah, so luckily enough, we had the Bud Surf Tour back then.
Yeah.
And the Bud Surf Tour was actually a big part of qualifying.
I wish Red Bull would just drop money and do like 8 events and bring that back.
Yeah, because that's what it was. I mean, they had guys from Australia and Brazil and all these other countries coming here to live, or Hawaii.
Todd Prestige moved here, remember?
Yeah. I mean, I remember Noah Boudreau and multiple guys from Hawaii would come over, and they would just stay here because there was, enough events here, and obviously that's a big transition from Hawaii. The conditions, the weather, the temperature of the water, everything. Those guys wanted to be successful too. So, it just that was the stepping stone for me, being able to do those events up and down the West Coast. 16, 17 years old, 18 years old, and to get enough points as I was graduating, to get seated high enough. That was the whole goal. If you get seated high enough, and then just out of high school, doing some of the QSs, I think I went to England, I went to South Africa, went to Australia, I went to a few places, and that's kind of where I went. Basically, just did a QS and qualified off of that.
What do you qualify at 19? What age did you make?
I think I was 20 I was about 20 years old.
Okay.
But luckily, having the Bud Surf Tour here, the majority of the contests were in Southern California.
Yeah.
Obviously
they do like Oceanside, and
you did Oceanside a couple times. I mean, there was another event down, I can't remember if it was Imperial Beach or somewhere, but there was 3 events, I think, in San Diego. Then there was like 3 events through Orange County, 1 in LA. Then you had San Francisco, Ventura. Anyway, there were enough events, and they did have enough points.
It was like 8 or 10 event
it was about,
season.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was 7 or 8 events.
Yeah, and they were on TV. I remember on Prime Ticket, so you'd be on TV. And
at the end of the year, they always had the final event in Hawaii, so that was really cool too.
So kind of training wheels.
Well, it was more than that because of the points that they were offering back then. There was almost like 5- and 6-star points.
So they counted towards ASP seating for the main tour, right?
Exactly. So that's why a lot of guys came and did those, because you could get close to qualifying. And for me, I got lucky. I did really well, and then I only had to do about 4 other events to get outside of the U.S. Yeah.
And also, I think with those things being on TV and there being enough of those events a year, it also like raised your profile too. Besides being in magazines, people could see you surf and they'd replay the heck out of those contests too on TV. So people will be able to see you, because nowadays, if you don't have a sponsor that's not helping you and you're not putting out clips yourself, or they're not getting featured on Surfline or whatever, you can rip and no one knows who you are, and it's just kind of like you're anonymous. At least back then there was a system for Californians, at least, or American. Contiguous American surfers, because guys from the East Coast, they had East Coast contests too.
That was the other thing. They only had 1 or 2 events on the East Coast.
But they had them.
Yeah. And I actually did well over there too. So it was, most of the majority of the events were in California, but they had the events. It was the Bud Surf Tour was like the American Surf Tour, basically. Yeah. And it helped a lot. Quite a few of us get on the world tour. So
yeah, like I said, I wish like one sponsor would just come in and go, listen, we're going to do 8 of these, just like a Red Bull or something like that with a lot of money, and we'll just do that, because it would help so much, because there's guys that rip that just can't,
There's a ton of guys. The biggest hurdle for most of the guys is that there's only a few events, and you pretty much have to get on a plane and go somewhere far away. So if you haven't built up enough points, which is even hard enough just to even get in the contest nowadays, dude. People don't even understand that. They think that you could just enter like they used to.
You don't just pay your $150 and you're in?
Yeah, like if you're not in the top 100, you can't get in the contest. You can't just, back in the day, you could just roll up
Beach
and anybody,
entry.
be like, oh yeah, the waves are 4 to 6 feet, it's good, I'm surfing the event,
Yeah. So, and now it's so planned out, and like
everything is, it could take, I've got guys that are planning 2 years, 3 years of how they're going to get there, like getting a strategy, because they can't, even if they wanted to, like even like a blank checkbook, they couldn't do it. Yeah, even if some kid like started surfing, and he just started ripping, and it's magically he's the guy. I mean, without any points, you can't do the events.
Yeah.
Unless you've got some crazy wild card, but that doesn't happen.
Okay, so you were doing all this 20 years ago, back with their sponsorship money, when really like before the boom of the 90s,
big money came,
before the big money came, and there's been a couple like mini booms and then a drop and whatnot, but there's still money. The top guys are still making a lot more money than the top guys used to. You did all this back in the day, and also you had a son when you were in high school.
Yeah, I was graduating high school.
That melts my brain every time I think about that.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine, because I've been growing up, with you and around everybody, how immature me and all the other idiot guys were that we grew up with, and you having your head on pretty straight to make the QS and make the CT is enough, but then doing that is nuts, dude.
I think that was the other challenging part of it, and it makes you grow up. You're not asked to, you're forced to.
I can't imagine it, dude.
It's one of those things where responsibility is all of a sudden it's there, and as much as you want to just be super immature, you can't.
Because you said you were in high school, like you want to, I can make money from this, but that's before, and then add that next layer, like you had to make a career out of this, or else you were done.
Yeah, well, it was knowing that I had the ability and it was capability, I think, and that just drove me harder. Once I knew that I had my son around. I mean, obviously, I was young. I was like 19. Dude, having a little kid, it was gnarly. But at the same point, I was already focused on something. And also that PSA
probably helped because you were local. You're gone for the weekend, not for a week and a half,
that's
right?
What I mean. That's why it was easier if I had to do it all over again now in this day and age. It would be almost impossible to get up and travel the world to do those events, and be able to qualify. It'd be very difficult.
Just money-wise. I mean, if you did all the PSAs and 4, 5 stars or whatever back in the day, maybe you spent, I don't know, 20, 30 grand maybe at the most or whatever. But now it probably take $100,000 or more. Yeah,
you're basically... So the guys I talk to tell me that it's... The majority of your prize money is you're spending, which is, and if you're doing well, you're going to be making, 60, 70, 80 grand
but it's
prize money. But that's that's
taxes and then travel. And
that's your whole year travel right there. Let's just,
if you're winning or doing well.
That's what I'm saying. Then you got kids like, there's, for example, there's, a kid named Derek Peterson. He's a great surfer, local kid, and he's been trying to make it, but dude, I think he might even still live at home.
He just got signed with Billabong in the last 3 to 6 months. I think he did well in a contest, and did well in Santa Cruz this year. But he didn't have a sticker on his board. So I see him surf the pier. I'm like, that guy rips. So he's like, it's Derek Peters, whatever. And now he's got a sticker on his board. I swear to God, I see him the last 3 months. He's always ripped. Yeah. He just seems like with that sticker on his board, he's just surfing even when he's free surfing, he's finishing waves. He's doing like 3 big moves and then like going back out and not getting like, and
that's just one name I'm dropping.
Yeah, that's just one example, one kid, but like,
for him and these other kids to be able to get around the
so he's ripping now, but now he's still 2 or 3 years away from where he needs to be to make the tour.
Yeah, he can't get in half the events he needs to even get a shot, That's the whole thing.
And he also has to not get hurt. And he also keep a sponsor for 3 years without the return yet.
And to be honest, because of the financial situation, I'm guessing he probably still lives at home. I mean, it's just too expensive.
And that's the problem too, is that people think, especially the internet's weird now, because this goes for everything. I've worked in web series and stuff like comedy web series, like something goes viral and gets 100,000 or 1 million hits. People assume if you get like 1 million hits that you've made all this money. Where you get 1 million hits on YouTube, you might make $1,000 or $2,000, and a video to make it costs more than that most of the times. Same thing with the sponsor. Yeah, guys might get stickers on the boards. They might be getting a check from their sponsor, but it's not enough to get an apartment and a car payment and anything else, and or have if you had a kid, like that's you're waiting tables at night plus doing that.
There's a certain group that are making that money and are really young, and they're the ones that are basically the chosen ones. Yeah, and those ones are, once again, there was a few of them,
but that's like the Kellys and the Dorians from back in the day. They were making 10 times what everybody else was making, because Kelly was Kelly and Dorian ripped and had that weird cool style and surfed gigantic waves that could kill you. Like they were chosen. Like that's just the way it was.
Yeah, there's always going to be those few guys, or a dozen of them, let's just say, and there's a few other ones that are just lucky enough to be locked in with the right people at the right time, the right sponsors. But I don't know, man. It's a different it's a different type of check that they're getting, you know? I mean, you talk about Griffin Colapinto, he's winning everything right now, that little kid, and he rips. He deserves to win. He's ripping.
Yeah.
He's really young. But then there's a lot of weight on his shoulders that comes along with accepting that kind of, you know, big time money in contracts.
And especially, it's one thing to win all the amateur contests and just dominate. I mean, do like 4 divisions and win them all.
Absolutely.
Because Kaloe did that. And then he got on tour, and then even the commentators half of just like writing him off, like politely, but like basically writing him off. And it's like, dude, this kid still is ripping. He's just like, he's a 20-year-old kid against 30-year-olds and these giant death-defying waves. And also this dad and all his sponsors, he's getting 200 boards a year to try and like fine tune everything. It's like, there's so much math going on in this kid's head. And Kaloe's one of the chosen ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had a video about Kaloe before he was even out of high school.
14 or 15 years old.
Parco going, I can't wait to surf against Kaloe. And then he's like 12. You're like, what the, you know what I mean? So that's like the best, the best case scenario is like crushing pressure, like they can form time. And that's
the thing that you always wonder, like, are they, I don't know. For me, I always look back and I was pretty intense and I was pretty focused. And sometimes I didn't feel like I was actually having fun like I should have, you know? And a lot of people think that, oh man, you guys got the best life. But sometimes you're just, and a lot of the guys on tour even, you get really absorbed like any other athlete in what you're doing, and you just want to be the best. You know? And sometimes that's why some of these guys got to take a step back and enjoy it while they can.
So my question is, you got to, not cushy, but pretty easy. You PSAA and you qualify mostly domestically. So what's it like going from being like the hometown hero, California, like golden boy, making the tour, everyone's, oh, how great. And then 2 weeks later, you're in the middle of wherever, waiting for a contest for 2 weeks of the waiting period. You don't know anybody. The people that you travel with, half the guys on tour aren't probably as cool to you as you thought they're going to be. The other half are doing things you probably don't want to do because you don't want to make those kind of choices. So that's got to be, dude, shocking. You're not going to, and that's before the Dream Tour too. So what was that like?
So it was difficult. Like just even traveling on some of the QS contests. Yeah, you do have to kind of find a buddy system. You have to find somebody or a couple guys that you want to travel with, or you can even, hang out with
and not want to kill after a week.
Like I ended up hanging out with guys like Shea Lopez and Jake Patterson and a few other guys. And I remember there was, Chris Brown back then. And then I rode for Town and Country for a short while, and I ended up going to a few places that, they take care of you. But I'm with Richie Collins and these other guys, and sometimes you get along, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Like it just, everything ended up working out, fortunately for me in a good way. It didn't last that long. I was only on tour, the WCT, for 2 years. So, man, the hard thing is when you don't qualify, then it's like, well, now what, And that's where I came to a weird position. I still had a lot of surfing to do, a lot of life to live there in that realm. But
it was the PSA over by then?
So the PSAA had turned in the Bud Surf Tour, and then when the Bud Surf Tour pulled out, when Budweiser was no longer sponsoring it for whatever reason, it basically, everything kind of started to evaporate, and things had changed. And that's where that whole change in the ASP was. That's when it was the Elite Tour, remember? Because that's when I qualified. They changed it from...
You were the first in the 44, right?
Yeah, so they narrowed it down from having almost anybody or local trials for guys to get in contests to only the top 44 could do the events, and then they would have 4 or 5 wild cards.
Yeah.
And that was it. Now it's top 32. I mean, it's narrowed everything down. It's just different. But even speaking about...
But you're trying to learn the venues the first year, I'm assuming, right? Like how to get there.
So getting to the venues and just getting comfortable the first year was, dude, it was so difficult. It was you're so right on the money, too down with, like, you don't get along with everybody. A lot of the guys don't want to even, like, help you out with where to stay, where's the cool hotels, where do you go,
or they might just dick with you for fun, just like, go over there.
And then you got the other guy. You got a lot of the Aussies that just fuck with you the whole time, and everything's a joke to them. Everything's got to have some kind of comic relief to it. So.
And they're drunk. So that's
a lot of a lot of them like to drink and have fun. Dude. Yeah. So.
So did you have things like where your boards wouldn't get there or they get dinged? And that was back before these are all glass-ons, by the way. So if you got a fin crack, there
was a transition going on actually when there was still glass-ons, but they were starting to get the FCS systems. But the reality was, dude, boards got hammered, boards didn't show up, bags didn't show up. That happened to me a few times. Luckily, stuff would eventually come. I never got something lost forever, like a few of the guys did.
Yeah.
It's just disappeared. And I mean, you get stuck somewhere without a wetsuit, dude, and the water's cold. Like, it never happened to me, but I remember a few guys showed up at J Bay, and they got no boards and no wetsuits, and they're looking around trying to borrow stuff from other guys. You know, dudes are wearing wetsuits inside their buddy's wetsuit, inside out, no logos. Yeah, it's just stuff. You know, things happen, and I remember. And the other thing was, it was gnarly too. Like, you travel and, dude, I mean, you get ripped off sometimes.
Yeah.
You can get freaking shit stolen, you know?
Or you don't speak the language. A taxi cab driver, a $10 ride's like $100 and you don't know any different. Or,
yeah,
you know.
Things happen, man. It's crazy out there, but I mean, it's still fun, but it
seems now too
challenging.
It seems now they have like the surfers representative and stuff, and there's kind of more an umbrella. They really do kind of handhold and like keep an eye on the surfers and a little bit more to help them get dialed in.
I think it's
with it, you know, because the WSL is an entity trying to make itself a bigger, more of a global brand.
Yeah, back then it was.
So it behooves them to take care of their stable.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was just kind of like
back
a pirate
then it was
ship.
like, okay,
like.
here's the easiest thing was, here's the schedule, here's where you need to be, and here's where you enter the contest. You couldn't
no internet.
You couldn't call anybody. Yeah,
you had a travel agent, I'm assuming, right? Like there was no like
somebody helping you with the
book
plane
something
tickets,
on your phone
but
or whatever.
When it came to car rentals and hotels, it was actually a little bit more difficult than you actually think. You know,
because there's no Travelocity or Orbitz or whatever.
Yeah, like you can't just book a freaking hotel in Spain or I mean, you show up to France, dude. It's like, okay, now what? You know,
yeah.
It's like, you know, you'd already try to work it through your sponsors or somebody that had been there before you to help you out. I mean, that's what it was. I spent more time, I kid you not, dude. I spent more time trying to find out where to stay, how to book hotels or whatever it was in cars.
Then you worried about winning heats or like getting a better car.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you're nervous getting on a plane going, dude, am I going to show up to this place and it's just going to be a rat hole, or what is it? I mean, is it even a room, or what, you know?
Is your stuff
am I
safe?
sleeping in the kitchen? Where am I? Like, seriously.
So that's got to, and then you have your first big heat the next morning. And how was that?
Oh,
did you have a lot of round one losses, or times where you flew like so many hours, and if you did the math in your head, you're like, holy crap, I just traveled a long way to
flown all the way. Yeah, it happened. I mean, J Bay is the furthest place out of all of them, and you show up and you get like, back then we wouldn't get like 4 or 5 days in advance. I mean, because a lot of times the events would be back to back, so you get there and you'd have like 1 day to practice, you know, and everybody is out there at the same time. So you really don't get a time.
What are the free surfs like with that? I've talked to guys that run video for the contest, and they're pretty cool because the pro guys know they run the video and they're like the crew, so they're nice to the crew. But I'm assuming the guys on the contest are just like, it's more cutthroat than like you'd imagine.
It was more cutthroat. Plus, you know, back then, I mean, everywhere you went, it seemed like the locals still didn't have as much respect for the guys on tour. So it was a bit. I mean, you got everybody in the lineup from the tour, plus local guys in the water. I mean,
trying to burn you,
or even if they're not trying to burn you, they wanted to show that this is their spot, you know. And it happens sometimes, you know. But the good news is, you know, they did back then start small waiting periods, so we didn't have to run only during those certain days. I mean, we would get 1 or 2. Maybe we get lucky and get 3 days, you know, extra that we could run the event, you know, so you could lay day a couple times. But now, I mean, they get the pick and choose.
They'll wait a week.
They'll wait 8 days, you know.
So you're not feeling bad when on the 9th day the Gold Coast or West Nile was a little choppy for them. You're like, they don't even know.
Exactly. Like there were times where you'd show up and the first 2 days is flat. I mean, no event, but the third day it's like it's knee to waist high.
They have to go,
and you got to go. I mean, it's over with.
So even on the CT, you were surfing like QS level conditions sometimes.
There was a couple events. Yeah, there were a couple events in Australia. There was events. I mean, dude, if you go back and look at the U.S. Open, I mean, there was no waiting period. Actually, they would just pull the trigger no matter what. And I even had a heat. A man-on-man heat, and it was literally knee-high with maybe a thigh-high set.
So that's Huntington, so you're in waist-deep water, basically.
You could jump into waves. The sandbar was so bad that there were no waves on the outside, and so it was basically just shore break.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, if you take off at an angle, you could maybe stand up and do one of those weird floaters. And
it was basically, yeah, it was a one-hit wonder contest for the first couple rounds. And, you know, that happens in multiple events, you know?
I remember one year in Hawaii, we were all excited because, like, you had heat the next day, and I think Dorian was in your heat, or maybe it was a 3-man heat or something. We're like, oh, shit, Jeff surfing against Dorian. That's crazy, which is...
I had Dorian and Richie Collins and
crazy
Pipeline.
to think about a Huntington guy surfing against Dorian in a pipe heat the first time, and it was you. And then we all went down there, and it was, like, windy and choppy, and it was like crap. It wasn't like good.
Yeah,
it wasn't good. We're like, oh man, that's got to be even worse because pipe glassy and pretty and like you draw on your notebook is like scary enough, dude. Lumpy pipe that looks like Northside on like steroids with, like, you know, doesn't look like a fun environment, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and if you go even further back before us, I don't think they even had any weight. I mean, they just hear the dates of the event and they'd just pull the trigger. I mean, I remember being in Hawaii for my first time. I was like 14 or 15 years old, watching the contest at sunset, and it was literally like waist to shoulder height on the inside.
Like fouls.
And then later down the road, when I did the contest, that happened to me as well.
Yeah.
You just didn't have you didn't have a choice, you know? You know, it is what it is, man.
Check. Yeah. I don't know. So with all that, and then you went on after the CT. You still surfed and did a lot more stuff in surfing.
Yeah, I mean, so the 2 years on tour, and then after that, they still did have the American tour for a few years. I can't remember who sponsored it actually, but there still was a tour. It wasn't as much points, there wasn't as much money involved, but I did that, and then I actually, with all the sponsorships and whatnot, I basically just started shooting photos as much as I can, because the video thing, like you talked about, I mean, the videos took too long to come out.
Yeah. Internet
hadn't hit yet. This is like 99, 2000. Okay. So it was like everybody was in the magazines.
Yeah.
So my whole thought was, well, and there's not enough events. So, I'm still going to do contests, but how am I going to be able to make money from my sponsors? Well, you had to be in the magazines. You had to be somebody that was showing up in there. So I just
did you game plan that out too? Did you figure out, like, I live here, where's the closest places, or what was your strategy for that?
So my whole strategy was it was actually a really simple one. Luckily enough, Surfer and Surfing Magazine were in San Clemente, which is a 30-40 minute drive at most. So I would just start showing up at the magazines. I just started building a relationship with the guys that ran the magazines.
Okay.
And they basically are like, hey, these are the photographers in the areas, LA to San Diego, and this is, you know, who you should shoot with.
And this is what our we're going to do issues.
Yeah, these are our guys on our staff, and this is who, you know, we suggest. You know, they basically said, this is who we suggest you start communicating with. And it was not that easy, but it was that easy, you know.
Dude, it's so funny. Like, I would say more than, like, I'd say not 90, but like 70% of your career really involved making like smart choices completely outside of surf. I mean, luckily you are a natural athlete and talented and stuff like that. But that seems like you didn't have to worry too much about that, and you stayed pretty injury free as well. But like, dude, thinking about that plan about what not to do so you could make, you know, stay in there, and then after the CT, like how to become a photo guy. Because I would just think, well, I'll just go surf Creek every day, or I'll go surf, you know, what? Because Creek was big back then too. You know, like not as much now.
There were certain areas you could go to, and you'd know some of the best photographers.
But you
were gonna
proactively went to like the source.
Yeah, and that also came from, if you have the right sponsors, and the guys that advertise in the magazines pay a lot of money to get those ads in the front 5.
So you look for 2-page spread guys. That's what you want. Yeah.
And even
common sense.
But at that point, there's obviously some type of relationship going on already on the business side of that, and that on those advertisements.
Yeah.
But then the editorial part always comes as well with the influence. Not always, but some of the influence from the sponsors say, hey man, I pay a lot of money for these, you know, where are my guys in the magazines?
Or they might pay for a trip where they pay to put their guys on a boat and do whatever too. And that was
the other thing. That's when it started happening, right before my time of all this. But that was basically what guys said. They go, hey man, you and so and so should go on a trip, man. The waves are going to be good in like 2
package it up
weeks
and
or
then
a week,
hand it on
man.
a silver
Get
platter.
on a plane and go and get so and so to
Hire
tag along to
hire
be
the
the
photog
photographer.
and then send them all in a group package.
And
kinda
lots
like,
of times the magazines would do it for you. They would already be like, hey, actually, we got this trip lined up. Here's the photographer. Call him up. Make sure there's, that it's cool that you're jumping in. And, sometimes it costs more than you would think because you're last minute in it, but it would usually pay off because then sometimes you're showing up 3 months later with 2-page spread or a page spread or even photos for your sponsors, man. It works out.
Were you thinking back then to try and just do domestic trips, or were you like on a boat wherever they'd send you whatever you had to do?
My whole thought,
you're raising a family and
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I had a son and then I had a daughter when I was 24. So I had two kids, two grams. So it was pretty much a crazy juggling act.
None of our friends had kids at this point, by the way.
So
You're
I was the
guy,
only one.
That blows my mind. Like all our friends that like gone to college, like were trying to work and have like careers.
Yeah.
Like none of them had. They all postponed that, but you like jumped in like 2 feet.
I was already in with one, and I was still
crazy.
Yeah, so it just happened that way.
So what was the plan for that?
I don't know. For some reason, I ended up maturing before everybody.
Yeah.
It was just weird, like. Dan, remember we were at your house in Hawaii?
Yeah.
And I'm like having to make calls to check in on the family and all this.
Yeah, and calling your sponsor. It's just everyone. Yeah, dude, I know. And even if like back
and
in
you
the
guys
day,
are like, hey man, we're gonna go out and grab a couple drinks.
oh,
or
dude, we get
we're
like
gonna
that's
meet
that's
some
how true
girls
about
or
too, though,
whatever.
Jeff. Because like back when all the guys, it was 2 seasons. Like I lived in a house in the North Shore, and then everybody that we knew would come stay at the house. Every night we would go out and get drunk, go to town, go to FEMNU, get drunk. Like every night,
Yeah.
and you were
Unless
like,
we knew
you
the waves were going to be firing the next
dude.
which it
Even some of
not
those
always
guys
did.
didn't care. Sometimes it's going to get too big. It'd be better to be hungover and not have to go out anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would always remember, like, you were never a stick in the mud. You would always go and be down to do whatever, but you were always like, I'll have a beer or two. You would never get like fall down drunk.
Yeah.
You never be the guy going, we're going to the car and smoke out or whatever. And like, you were never that guy.
I
sneaking off
wasn't
and
worried
doing
about getting wasted.
Like,
I wasn't
you were
worried
just like-
about getting high. I wasn't worried about that. Wasn't my
But
never
it's so
was.
funny
It never
now
been. It
to
has
think
been.
of you like as an adult, like older adult, going, holy crap, you had all these plans and scenarios going on in your head when you were, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I have to imagine some of these guys. Like, dude, the other day they had the last game of the freaking NBA Finals.
Yeah,
and to watch what those guys are doing and how focused they could. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So take a little tiny bit of what dedication those guys put into it, and just even put that into a surf, function. The whole thing that people don't realize though is that you can't predict what's going to come in the ocean. That's the hardest thing. So that's the only thing. You can train, you can surf the same spot your whole life, you can have the best boards, but if the wave doesn't come, it doesn't come.
Yeah, and that was the weird thing because back in the day, Curran always had that mystique of like a ghost wave would just come to him, and then Kelly kind of had it in the last 5 or 10 years, not as much, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, that is the one the gamble about
some
surfing.
Guys that, to be honest, I think they spend just a little extra time really knowing the ocean, knowing the swell, knowing different scenarios of past prediction or what has happened in the past. To what might be predicted for the future. And I think, honestly, Tom Curran was one of the best at it. So I know a little bit more about Tom than some guys. He used to show up to the events early, and he would sit on the beach. Not always, but I actually saw it one time. He'd sit on the beach for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time with a hoodie on, or you wouldn't even know it was him. He'd be just watching the ocean the whole entire day before, or 2 or 3 days before he'd actually surf, just to try to get a feel for different things. It was just really weird, but for whatever reason, it worked in his favor a lot. Like, he just had that magic 2 minutes left. He needs a score, and he'd get it.
So he'd watch where the sandbar was and how it was at the high tide going low tide going high, and then he'd just kind of store that away.
So he would see the different things that were happening.
Oh, thanks a lot. So it wasn't just magic. So it was actually doing.
I think. Well, then there's the case of that.
Yeah.
There just some guys have it because.
But like people say, luck is being prepared when opportunity comes your way. So just adding that extra level to like the skill.
That was a lot of it.
But you have a very good wave sense. So like whether you're here at home in Huntington or whatever, but on surf trips, and to Mexico last year for our buddy Wyatt's what is bachelor thing, whatever.
Bachelor
and you
party.
you would be like sitting in the right place more often than not in sets where like our other friends we'd be goofing around and talking or whatever. So are you constantly doing that math in your head when you're surfing now?
No. So now, no, I haven't done it for a long time.
So don't follow you around the lineup then. You're telling everybody.
The easiest and quickest way to be to have the most success, to have the best waves, is all I do is like when you guys see me stretching on the beach or running along the beach, or what the frick is Jeff doing spending 10 or 15 minutes on the beach? I'm trying to pay attention to the water. That's all I'm doing. People don't even realize. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm stretching, I'm doing this, but I'm actually paying attention to what's going on.
Where the sets are, where they're breaking.
Yeah, what I'm and most of the time it's not even that. It's not even where. I'm looking for where it's not. And I'm always looking for the negative part. Like, where is it not happening? Where is the waves coming in the least? Where's the opportunity not there?
So you won't sit there? Is that what you're saying? So
that's what I'm saying. And where I'm seeing things not, where I see the glass half empty is where I'm obviously not going to go. Okay. And the ocean is tricky, right? Because it could be 30 minutes and then boom, that magic wave came to that one spot. But consistency is what I'm always about. I'm always looking to be the most consistent. And that's always been my thing. People are like, dude, you're always so consistent. How are you get second place or first place or you made the final or whatever it is? It's just because I'm trying to always be consistent. And that's it. That's as simple as that.
And I brought this up earlier, I think maybe before the show and at the beginning. You really, for being in your 40s, out of all the guys you grew up with, you still look pretty much the same as you did back when younger. You haven't gotten like fat or whatever. So are you consistent? Why have you been healthy? You haven't really hurt yourself too bad. You're not all beat up.
I'm pretty lucky.
Lucky you weren't really an air guy just when airs were kind of taking off. So you save your knees and your legs.
You know what?
Do you exercise or just surfing?
I still try to exercise, and I don't do it enough. I still try. Surfing's probably my main exercise.
Okay.
But, I mean, you know what? I think some of it's genetics and some of it is psychologically. Yeah,
you're a little bit thinner than your brother.
It's not like I watch what I eat. This is the key. There's two things. There's two things in life for anybody. I mean, just eat smart and stay active. It's that fucking simple.
Yeah.
Really?
Just keep moving.
I mean, think about it.
Find something you like. And that's the other thing we talk about. You're still stoked on surfing. Like, whether it's big or small, good or bad, windy or sunny or cloudy or whatever. In the afternoon, sometimes I only have like 40 minutes. I'll sneak down on my bike and I'll go surf just for 40 minutes. And it sucks, but it's all I have. Dude, you're one of the guys I still see out, even when it's choppy or kind of crummy and you're out there by yourself. You didn't have to wait for your friend. You went down just to surf for like an hour or whatever. See, you're still stoked on surfing after having surfed so many good waves in so many other places. That trips us out because some of our friends that have done the tour won't surf Huntington. Sometimes like, dude, I've surfed places in West Dawes where there's not even another person, and I got barreled for a week, and I'm like, yeah, but that's today it's 3 foot. It looks fun.
It's the number one thing that I think most of us do. We mentally psych ourselves out because the conditions aren't good. But for me, I mean, okay, so fast forward all the way to today. So I work for a company that sells surfboards and SUPs. So what do I talk about and do all day? It involves selling surfboards. Well, I got to talk about, and at the same time, the mantra for the company is life's better when you surf. So like we have meetings and it's okay to say, hey man, I went and surfed for 45 minutes and I got a couple waves at the pier. Or I was in an account in San Diego and I caught a couple waves. It's all good that way. I don't think it's like that for a lot of the guys. I don't think it's like that for a lot of surf companies because a lot of our friends work for surf companies. For anybody in that way that you forced into your early morning surf sesh, or you get your crappy afternoons. And I mean, as we get older, our motivation is down. We got family, we got things going on, we got so much happening. I think I'm really lucky that I can work a schedule to be able to surf. But even without that, like, I think that it's my mental focus of, if I don't do this when the waves get good, I'm gonna suck.
Yep. That's another thing too. As you get older,
when the waves get good,
you have to surf 2 or 3 times a week just in case that fifth day gets good. Because if not, you're gonna be huffing and puffing the first session and blow it.
About 3 years ago, I had, before the job I'm doing now, I was doing home loans again, which I'd done after my surf career.
That's
for a
also
while.
crazy too.
Yeah,
So
I just fell into that. But just to
And then
briefly
back into
talk
surfing
about
again,
it,
yeah.
there were weeks and weeks and weeks I couldn't surf. Not that I didn't want to. I had to be at work at 7:30 and I couldn't leave till 6:30 at night.
Whether it was glassy
over
or whatever.
and over and over, and I had to work some of the weekends, and it was I just couldn't do it. Right, I couldn't fit the time in. It's too far away. Whatever. The bottom line is, I try to wake up in the mornings and tell myself, dude, I'm really lucky. I'm actually really lucky, and I need to take advantage of the time I have to be able to do the things I like. So if the waves suck, it really actually is a good thing. Because there's not going to be that many guys out. I'm always trying to think of whatever. so my whole thing is, when I was young, I always felt, and I was reminded by some of my friends and family, that I actually was a little bit negative. I was negative about things, or things weren't good, this and that. But now I've turned it all around, thinking, man, dude, I'm pretty damn lucky. I get to live by the beach. I'm not that far from it. The weather's pretty cool. I get to hang with my friends and family. And the number one thing is, dude, when you go to the beach, you usually do see some of your old friends, or somebody that you don't mind. I mean, it gets crowded, Dan.
Yeah,
we know this. We get we get pissed or whatever. But for me, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna get my waves, if they're good or bad, but I'm going to get mine, and I'm
and you get an experience out of it. Maybe it's a crowded day, and if you get a really good wave on a crowded day, you're so stoked. Or if you surf in a crappy afternoon, you're like, dude, the shore break was great. It was like, like this morning I surfed for 45 minutes. It was windy and junky, but the shore break was great, and there was two guys out, and one of them was on a wave storm. I got 20 waves in like 25 minutes, and then I left. It was great.
Look, I sell surfboards and stand-up paddleboards for a living. I've got anything from a softboard beginner board that's 10 feet all the way down to a performance board. So I can pick and choose pretty much any quiver, or the best board for any condition that's out there.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely lucky in that case. And yeah, I still try to, I just still try to think of it as like, dude, like I said, when the waves get good, I don't want to be the guy that stays out there for an hour and I'm wiped out and I'm toast.
A lot of
our
friends will do that. I'll go meet them to surf. It takes longer for them to drive and meet me, and they'll surf like 30 minutes. Dude, I'm going in.
We spend more time in the parking lot chit-chatting than we do in the water, and we all we end up talking about when we come in is how hard, your back hurt, or I pulled this, or I couldn't catch that wave.
And if they had surfed 2 more times that week, they might have not pulled that, and they might have,
I might have been
sore.
And the reality is, we're getting older. As you're in your 40s or whatever. I mean, we still have the capability of doing this. But if you don't, dude, it's totally true. As they always say, if you don't do it, you lose it. So just keep doing it. That's my motto.
Hey, I mean, since we talked about so much about the grown-up stuff, what would you do? Like, what would you tell a kid nowadays? Like, either like someone like anyone from like Derek Peters or like Kanoa, who like actually made the tour and is on the tour, and he's doing very well. And dude, I saw him this weekend when it was windy and cold and garbage out. In between contests, he comes home and he surfs the pier, whether it's 2 foot or whatever. And he's happy. He's like stoked. He was surfing the shore break the other morning, and he's happy. And I was like, "Oh, dude, you're doing really well on tour. Congratulations, keep it up." He's like, "Thanks," and just so like such a nice kid. You know what I mean? I hope it all keeps going well for him, because one, he's from Huntington, so that's awesome. But two, it's like he's a good kid doing good. But what kind of things? What kind of motivational things? What kind of like things? Not that you would do different, but like that you think that really paid off for you. Choices you made that paid off in the long run to keep you healthy and happy and sane, and not like another statistic, kind of drug burnout.
Well, I mean, I think you're on the path of the multiple guys that just didn't make it or just disappeared. I mean, you got guys like Colby Outlaw we spoke about earlier, and I mean, he's one guy for an example that he had the talent and the ability, and he just threw it all away.
Dude,
he just wanted to party.
Good looking guy, popular, like super good, and just ripped good style, which is also not as big of a deal now. But he was the man back in the day when we were little kids. He was on that path of becoming, or could have become something for sure. Yeah.
Because he had the natural talent, and competition wasn't so much his thing, but he had
so much charisma though. He was like CC. It didn't really matter.
Yeah, he could get himself through some of those heats that he would just squeeze by and get there. But the bottom line is, dude, you just throw it away. You just want to party and toss it out, and then to even go even further, man, I think the guy, he ended up going to prison and things like that. I mean, it's pretty hard to turn your life around.
But I mean, not to just single out Colby. There's a lot of guys with that story. Whether he was a Huntington guy, San Clemente guy, Santa Cruz guy, San Diego guy. There's so many, and I'm talking from
Australia,
in different
everywhere,
every class, every 40, let's say every high school, every 40, every group of guys that comes up. There's so many guys just being older now, being able to look back on, holy shit, I'll see kids now that kind of that heat, and I go, dude, you have the same heat that a guy in like '96 had. That in 2000 was gone. Just didn't off the face. Like there were kids getting like magazine shots. We were in high school that were like freshmen or sophomores, and then by the time we were all graduated, you never heard of them again. And then you saw them at a party or some weird place or maybe a trade show like 4 or 5 years later, and they didn't even look the same.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that whole I mean, I'm sure it happens in a lot of different sports. I mean, even the skate world's probably the worst. Those guys just like to party all the time. But with the thought of Kanoa, and when you bring up Kanoa's name, I think that he's one of those kids. He's Japanese American, and his parents really instilled the dedication for him. It was the same thing. Like, dude, I mean, him and his brother, they're at the beach all the time,
and dude,
they just live there.
His parents got, like, because that's another thing too. I think they invested so much time, like raising him. Like they were at the beach every time. For the last 3 or 4 years, even before I qualified, when I go down surf, especially on crappy afternoons, they would be down there taking pictures or filming him every time. Like they made it like their whole family unit was all about surfing. That's why I have such high hopes for him. He's like destined, not to fail, like not like he won't lose heats or maybe he get hurt at some point, like have ups and downs. But he's not. I kind of feel like he's not the kind of kid that's going to go stick his head in a bucket of cocaine and punch a hooker and lose his boards and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like for like just being it, dude. That kind of stuff. It never. Obviously, the surf media never like reports on that kind of stuff because they can't, because it pretty much destroy everything. And I think the time you were in, from the '90s to the early 2000s was like a crazy. Well, anyone that did well then, it was crazy. Like there
was the Momentum group with the Slaters and
like the clean cut guys,
and Knox and those other guys. But then they had the Lost group that had come up, and those guys were more the partiers and whatnot. And it was just different. But I don't know, man. It's hard to really figure it out unless you live in their world or you're with them day in and day out. But I mean, from the outside looking in, someone like Kanoa, he has that drive. He doesn't like to lose. Yeah. And he has that. His family has supported him from day one since he's a little tiny kid, and almost more than any of the parents that I've seen, they're just dedicated to improving his surfing, really.
Yeah.
And not only that, but him as a person and his personality, I think he's brought up to be a good person, really. Yeah. And he himself is that way, He's got a good spirited kid.
He's a good vibe to him, and he's a good kid. And like I said, he's half my age. I don't know him from Adam really, but I see him in the water. Yeah. And he'll say hi, and he's like just a polite kid. He doesn't really, he's good and he gets his waves, but he's not like burning people or doing all these obnoxious things you see kids do.
Some guys that they just think that it's owed to them, at a young age. Like they're owed waves or they're owed this or they deserve something when they haven't earned it. And I don't know. I see Kanoa is just different, I think he feels lucky, and that he's gotten
or realizes how lucky he is because it's like, he has a great opportunity, but
what is he, 18? I don't even know. I think he's 18. Yeah. And he's all in the world. I mean, he's a really young kid and qualified, first of all, but then to being able to do pretty well so far.
We'll and half the waves now are at terrifying places when they get big. That's so heavy, dude.
But the bottom line is, I mean, I think you almost have to have that attitude really to be successful. You have to feel good about it, and and even coming from somewhere like Fiji where the waves are freaking one of the best places in the world to surf, and come back to Huntington, surf a bunch of sloppy crap
the next day, and the water like it dropped. It was full suit water. Like I couldn't believe it.
That's what you get paid the big bucks to do, and that's what I mean. Hey, throw a smile on your face and be happy.
But Jeff, I'd never, I've known you for 20 plus years. I had never 30 probably. I just never really pictured that there was that much going on, like that much pre-planning or that much like dissecting of everything. And that really sounds like the key to success.
So we're always friends, and all of us as friends, we don't talk about these kind of things. We don't say, hey, we don't sit down and go, hey man, so what is your plan? So how have you become so successful? Can you please tell? No.
But I think that's a great bloop, Jeff. I think your story, that's like, even before, is such a great like example of like kind of like picking the right things to do. Like,
I mean, no, it's not always perfect, but I mean, I tried to kind of have that.
Work hard, have a plan, don't be a scumbag on drugs, and things will probably work out.
I mean, it's not that hard. Like I said, the two things about staying fit is like, dude, just eat smart, and do stuff. It's just stay active. It's pretty easy, but it is the same thing. I mean, how many times do you wake up, in the morning, that you got to go to work, and if you don't have a plan, what do you do? So
nothing better than surfing usually. sleep in, play video games, whatever.
But if you have a plan, it's like, hey, you have to almost in life at some point. I don't know. That was just it. It's one of those things now. I mean, when we see each other in the water, like I said, I feel lucky to be able to be in the water during the middle of a day or a late afternoon or not. If the waves are crappy, I don't mind.
Also, and as you get older, I'm happy when I'm in the water when the waves are good, because especially when I have kids. Oh, yeah. I have surfed more high tide choppy days in the last 2.5 years with our son Charlie, because it's my I'm raising him with my wife, and sometimes she's busy or she's at work or she's late. I have watched I used to take him down there even when he was in a stroller and look at the waves. I just don't anymore, because I just know that when I get to surf, it's going to be high tide and it's going to be windy, but that's okay. I still try. I have as much fun as I did before I had a kid, and I could surf more whenever I wanted, because now I appreciate it more too, though, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think
that's kind of the ticket too.
I think it might make it sound like, I just get to surf whenever I want to. No, that's not the reality.
No, you work a lot too, dude.
The reality is I'm just trying to put a smile on my face and be happy that I'm actually in the water when I can be in the water. When other guys, like you said, we both have a lot of friends that they just won't even go to the beach. They won't even paddle out, And
they live 5 minutes from the beach.
How many guys do we see stand in the parking lot that don't surf? They just sit around.
We interviewed a guy from Sweden last week, the week before, for the show. And it's Sweden it gets half of the year it's below, the water's below 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. And they're doing gloves freezing. And whatever. And they only, because the way Sweden faces the Baltic, it doesn't face like Norway. It doesn't get ground swell. It only gets wind swell. So they're surfing windy, the windier the better, but they're surfing wind swell year round. There's no hope for a ground swell. I'm going to go to Rincon or I'm going to go to Lowers. No, they're hoping for blackies on a good day at best. Right. And they're stoked on it. And this guy I talked to, he surfs every day he can. He has a full-time job and does this, but it's just amazing. Dude, people in Sweden surf more than our friends that grew up in Surf City, USA. Yeah. But that's everything. You take it for granted. And I think, there's been points in my life where I have too, but that's why I started doing this podcast. I'm dude, I know so many guys that surf with so many interesting stories, and surfing is such, hippie stuff aside, it is such a luxury and a gift and a blessing to be able to do it, because there's just not as many people. Even when the wave pools come, there's not as many surfers,
Yeah. The reality is, there's no one wave that's the same. So you're never going to have the same ride. Yeah. Ever. As many times as we might do the same turn over and over and over again. But that's the other thing. Sometimes I'll show up, I'll be like, dude, I'm going to have something, it's going to be a different experience. And a lot of us, I shouldn't say us, but a lot of our friends or even people we know, they just don't think like that. They just don't. They don't look at it in that light.
And I said, you worked inland. I lived in Los Angeles for a long time, inland. Yeah. And I had never realized how lucky I was to
you just get, because
there were times I'd be in LA where I was if I got in my car right now, I'm an hour and 15 minutes from any beach, whether it's El Porto or somewhere God bless El Porto, it's good 3 days a year, but I'd go surf El Porto or blown out Venice Beach Jetty, because it's the closest place I could get to before dark, and I'd put my board. I would spend more time in the car than it was going to be daylight when I was at the beach, just to surf for that 35 minutes before it was too dark to see. Yeah. And these are 1 foot closeouts. So now living in Orange County again, it's great because I'm dude, I can go surf 30 minutes. I can go surf creek and it barrels sometimes, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. It's very cool. But
we because of the busy life that we've taken it as, well, I'm not going to only paddle out for half an hour in a negative way. We're no, dude, I'm paddling out for a half an hour.
Yeah. So you thought you surfed all your heats 10 years ago, but now it's a heat sometimes because you really have to hustle.
Dude, it's if I catch 2 waves, I'm good, Yeah. It just doesn't matter.
Okay, before thanks, dude. Oh, great. We did a lot of time in this interview. Any final thoughts? One real quick thing. As you get older, what boards, and you still surf very well at a very high level. You haven't lost it yet. Probably a couple more years before you fall apart. Maybe more. What boards do you like to ride the most lately? Short boards? What are you into? Because I always ask everybody, because the kids seem to ride whatever kids ride, but when you're older, your time is more valuable. You want to surf. I want to surf as well as I can on the best equipment without being trying to just jump on a trend thing that I'm not going to be able to surf because I'm old and my body's not great. But as a guy who surfs pretty good in his 40s, very well in his 40s, what do you ride? What do you like?
So the last year and a half of actually just all I'm doing is I'm riding boards that are a hair bit thicker. I ride basically 80s boards. I mean, I got 2 boards right now. I got one custom made, and it's a total flashback 80s, mid 80s.
Like that rusty 1984 model they had that one couple
I
years?
mean, this boards just have a little bit more foam and a little bit less rocker, and I'm giving up maybe a little bit of performance, but like you said, dude, I just want to make sure I catch waves and I go fast. I mean, I want to have fun.
If you're going fast, you can compensate for the rocker if you have speed
if
too.
I don't miss a wave, I've succeeded. Okay? I'm not going to paddle out on some tiny little thin chippy board to rip the hell out of 2 waves. I want to catch 20 waves and surf them all pretty well. That's my whole goal.
And that seems to be working out.
And that's, dude, absolutely.
And are you what any tails or bottoms? Just regular outline squash tail?
I'm riding just regular thrusters, square tails that are, I mean, of course they're updated versions of these boards, but
contemporary
it's
stuff.
pretty similar to something that you would have ridden in the mid 80s or late 80s that were just,
probably smaller stickers,
a little bit more,
day-glow.
not as much day glow and not the yellow neons that I used to have. Back that off, but yeah, man, that's really it. There's nothing fancy to it, really.
Okay, cool. Is there anywhere people online can follow you on Twitter or Facebook? Are you doing that stuff, or are you too busy surfing and working?
You can maybe see me on Instagram once a month. That's about it.
When you have time to do surfing.
You know what? I enjoy reading and seeing other people's posts and photos.
You're that guy.
And I don't know Twitter, but I've actually Instagram. I just like checking the photos, man.
Yeah.
But for me to post stuff, I don't know. I'm not interested in, having to figure out how to edit my pictures and what's the best lighting and oh no, I didn't look, my hair's not parted correctly.
Yeah, dude, you're a dad. You don't have to worry about a good haircut ever again.
Yeah, so or whatever it is, it's all good, dude. I enjoy just being here right now and being able to do what I do and have the time to surf.
Cool, dude. Well, dude, thank you very much for being on the show. You're one of my favorite guests so far. And like I said, the whole game plan thing, I would have never known that, dude.
Yeah, well, you never asked. That's how it is. You got to keep that stuff secret.
That was my interview with former CT surfer Jeff Deffenbaugh. Again, just a really great guy, cool human being, terrific surfer. Really lucky and happy to have had him on the show. Thank you for listening to the show. That does it for this episode of the Surfing Podcast, brought to you by Audible and Amazon Prime. Again, you can listen to all the episodes of this show on our website at thesurfingpodcast.com and on iTunes under The Surfing Podcast. And if you have an idea for a good guest for the show, or you'd like to be a guest on the show, shoot us an email at info@thesurfingpodcast.com and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Surfing Podcast. I've been Dan Bilek, and I will continue to be after the show even. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Until then, keep surfing.